The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Steven Cash here with Tulio Siragusa, as always, and we've got a special guest who we're going to introduce in a moment. So today we are exploring sustainable business practices and ethics through the story of a company building handcrafted solar-powered travel trailers in rural Arizona. So sustainability can show up in the materials the company chooses, the durability of the product it builds, the community where it manufactures, even the building it preserves, and the jobs it creates, and the relationship it encourages people to have with the natural world. So we're probably covering all of that today. Tulio, introduce our special guest today.
It'll be my pleasure. Our guest today is Tim Elinski. He's the founder and fabricator of Pin Drop Travel Trailers. Tim leads design and manufacturing for Pin Drop Travel Trailers, an award-winning micro camper company creating handcrafted solar-powered trailers built for both rugged terrain and comfortable outdoor experiences, dare I say glamping. With more than 25 years of experience as a licensed general and HVAC contractor, Tim brings deep craftsmanship, restoration experience, and energy-efficient design expertise to the business. Today, Pin Drop operates from a repurposed historic building in Miami, Arizona, contributing to local revitalization through thoughtful manufacturing. Tim is also the former mayor of Cottonwood, Arizona, where he served nearly 20 years in civic leadership and helped advance historic preservation, community support, and regional economic identity. Tim, welcome to the Bliss Business Podcast.
Thank you, Tulio. Thank you, Stephen. Good to be here. Really appreciate this opportunity.
Tim, so when you think about sustainability, can you tell our audience kind of what that looks like in the context of manufacturing travel trailers?
Yeah, so with Pin Drop Travel Trailers, what we really try to focus on is to make sure that we're building a generational teardrop trailer. So the RV industry in the United States is huge, 150 plus billion annually spent on travel trailers, with about 5 to 8%, I think, of U.S. households owning an RV, which lasts, 10 to 15 years at best. So that's just not good enough for us. So we really try to build a generational product that can last for a much, much longer time than you'd see other RVs on the road. So we know that people are going to camp. That's the kind of our American spirit, is to get out in our RVs and tour the country, Route 66 and all that. But in doing so, we want to make sure that we're not impacting the environment negatively. So that's why we started out with solar-powered, self-contained micro campers. So there's really no carbon footprint to these. They're great and sustainable, and just a really good alternative for those that want to be, conscious of our impact on the environment.
Super cool. Now, your background's an interesting background. You've been in the trades, includes historic restoration, HVAC, energy efficiency, building, and even civic servant capacity. How did that experience shape the way you design and manufacture Pin Drop trailers?
That's a great question. So I often tell people that I was a general contractor with a camping addiction, which is very true. I've been in the trades since, from growing up. My dad was in the trades. His dad was in the trades. So I've always just been around trades folks. And after high school, got my general contractor's license, dipped right into business and building homes, remodeling homes, but always had a great love for the outdoors. So I primarily focused on historic restoration. That was kind of my jam. I like old buildings. I like old, projects, and, the craftsmanship that went into some of these old historic homes. And so that carried over into my love for camping. So I would, have vintage campers that I would, work on and fix up and try to tweak to suit my wife and my wife's and my camping preferences, but they never really kind of fit the bill. So in my head, of course, being a tradesman, I was just always designing, a better product, a better way to stay out longer, because it's really lack of power, lack of water. That's what's going to drive you back, to civilization. So I was trying to figure out a way to keep us out a little bit longer. And but still maintain that vintage aesthetic. I think I really accomplished that with pin drop. And that's really what it was. I built it for years in my head prior to actually building it in real life. And I built it for myself and my family, selfishly, but it turns out it's a great design. And I think it's been universally loved by all of our customers, even though I don't know if they know this or not, but I really am building it for myself.
Well, I mean, that's the best way, I think. But, and these, I don't know how familiar people are with some of the vintage travel trailers, but they are works of art, this, like you said, that aesthetic side. So you're building these kind of rolling works of art. How do you balance like that beauty, the performance, sustainability, and then, durability, because you're out there, bouncing around with them on some dirt roads and things like that. How do you go about balancing all that? You're obviously building it for yourself. So I think there's probably, you're looking at it from those lenses every time you're taking one out, right?
For sure. And it is a tough balancing act, because I think, when we initially started, our product was kind of, it seemed to have more of an appeal to women more than men. It just had kind of I guess it didn't look as rugged as it does now. But, my team and I, through the years, we talked like, how can we kind of beef this up a little bit more? It always has been very durable as far as its chassis and its steel frame and all that stuff. So it never was any less durable than it is now, but we did make some aesthetic choices to, I guess, beef it up or man it up a little bit more.
Well, it's got like the bigger wheels, right? And then like the rack on top and stuff. And like the older ones, those vintage ones is like the really small, kind of delicate wheels and no rack or anything like that. So it's definitely looks that rugged, kind of feel to it. So,
and that's really been our more popular models. So we still have what we call the vintage, which is, it looks more like the vintage teardrop that you would see from the 1930s or 40s. So we still offer that. It's just not our most popular model. But yeah, most people are, they gravitate more toward the more rugged, bigger wheels, bigger rims, that kind of thing. The monochrome graphics package that we came up with is our most popular. So it looks beefy and robust, and it appeals more broadly. But at the same time, we still have a lot of those softer elements that I've incorporated throughout. Like, all the lighting is recessed lighting. It's dimmable. We have some of the more vintage throwbacks to some of the campers from the 50s and 60s in it's all LED lighting. Of course, it's all super modern, but I've incorporated some, flicker effect, flame effect lights in the cabin. So you can get that kind of almost like the old propane lanterns that they used to use. So it creates a real soft glow in the cabin. We're still using natural wood in the cabin. So Baltic birch, maple, cherry. So all that wood is very important to us because it just gives it that aesthetic that you can't really find in campers these days. Most RVs are plastics and composites. And while we have all of those in our manufacturing process, they're not customer facing. What's customer facing is that warm wood, that sort of, that I guess just that vintage aesthetic that people really appreciate, especially these days. Yeah.
We talked about that durability. Maybe explain why durability matters in conversations about sustainability.
Well, again, durability. So, we want to make sure that things don't break. We want to make sure that a lot of our customers they're boomers, they're active boomers, they're empty nesters, but they have kids, and I want to make sure that when they're done with their traveling days, they can give their pin drop, to their kids, and their kids can then enjoy the travel trailer. So we want to make sure it's durable enough to last, and that on the one hand, it's like, okay, well, then we can't sell the same customer a trailer twice. That's okay. I mean, we're really not focused on volume like the majority of our competitors are. It's a volume driven market, and we're not in the same field. We're really hyper focused on quality versus quantity. So durability, it's come a long way from the prototype that I initially built, but our trailers are extremely durable. Even our vintage, base model it's all steel chassis, steel frame construction. So we kind of manufacture these from the inside out. We inject 2 inches of closed cell foam during the manufacturing process, not to geek out or bore you with the details, but basically the way we manufacture these is that the wooden cabin, the carcass, if you will, the entire trailer isn't structural at all. The structure comes from the steel, and it comes from the way that we inject the foam throughout the cabin, or throughout the entire shell of the trailer. So the foam, it binds to everything. It binds to all the wood. It binds to the steel frame. There's no thermal bridging anywhere. So there's no connectivity between the steel chassis and frame and the interior cabin. So you don't get any thermal bridging or any of that kind of stuff. So it's basically like, you can think of it as a super insulated ice chest, like the Yeti coolers or the Canyon coolers. These are just really super insulated travel trailers. But it not only insulates it to make it quiet in the cabin, but it also, the way it binds to everything, it makes the frame very rigid. So that when you're going down washboard roads or very just rough terrain, the trailer doesn't shake and rattle. It's a very tight, rigid frame. The entire structure is very rigid. So again, very durable, long lasting, meant to last for generations.
I'm curious about the customer. I'm learning there's more than one type of customer. You've got yours, which is the more into the vintage, high quality, and then you've got those who are just, very transactionally focused. Can you maybe just explain to us, like, what would make one versus the other be more interested? What's the need that's being served is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I think the customers, who we're focused on is folks that really do have a deep appreciation for the great outdoors and recognize that that their lifestyle impacts, Mother Nature, and they want to make as little impact as possible on the environment. So those are the customers that we're really targeting, and these are customers that are willing to wait. Because we don't have a showroom. We don't have a fancy showroom where folks can come in and step inside, 5 different models, kick the tires and that sort of thing. We just, we build to order. There is a wait list, but, our customers really are happy to wait and understand that this is being built by real people in a rural town, with all the limitations that go into that. And they're willing to wait because they know that the money that's spent with our company helps support the rural town where we manufacture, helps support other Arizona-based businesses, and helps, beyond. We always focus first on as local as possible, but beyond that, we try to source, domestically, and we try to maintain as little purchasing outside of the U.S. as possible. So they know that their dollars spent with us just go a lot further to help support.
So each one is one of a kind, I would assume, too. Is that a fair assumption, or close to it?
It sure would appear that way, Tulio, and that's what we want.
Right,
but
right.
I was a one-of-a-kind contractor for over 20 years, so I did a lot of custom work. And as I pivoted to pin drop, I wanted to make sure that it was production.
Right.
As much as I love the clients I had as a contractor, doing one-off projects, one after the other, it can be challenging. So actually, every pin drop is modular. There's a bunch of different configurations for each model. So you can configure it, hundreds of different ways, but everything's modular, and that you can, if somebody were to purchase just what we call the vintage, which is our base model, they can upgrade it to become the Diablo, which is our more robust model. It's just a matter of plugging in or bolting on the different trim packages or the different features. So everything's pre-wired, pre-configured to receive any upgrade that we offer. So that's how we do that.
That's really cool. That's highly customizable like that. And you end up with something that meets what you want, and
Exactly.
Not something that was like, everybody else got, even if it's modular. I like that. It's very cool.
How do you decide whether like a material or a feature aligns or doesn't align with customer values when you're going through that, part of the manufacturing process?
Yeah, it's an ever evolving process, to be honest. It's obviously we're looking first and foremost for durability. Is a product durable enough to last as long as our trailer does? And if it's not, if it's got a shorter shelf life than some of the other components we use, is easily replaceable. So we kind of start there. Obviously, we're starting with, is this a domestically sourced product? Is it there's kind of a list of things that we go through to make sure that it's something that would enhance our design. And a lot of those RV quality products just haven't fit the bill for us. So we've gone through great lengths to just eliminate as much of the RV quality stuff from our build as possible. The rooftop mounted fan was a big change for us. When we finally were able to eliminate that rooftop mounted fan that you see on virtually every RV that's out there. It's just a ventilation fan. It mounts on the roof. It invites leaks. It invites all kinds of problems. We have an all wood interior. And so we've got to figure out a different solution for this. We had issues with them breaking and just not lasting more than a couple of years. And so we wanted to eliminate that from our design. And it was not easy. So we've got a patent pending on our EcoCool ventilation system, which is something that I designed. It's a ducted ventilation system that removes any potential of leaks from the roof. There's not now a 14 by 14 hole on the roof. Now it's all ducted through the interior shell of our design. It wasn't easy to do that. We had to really pause, stop production, prototype, come up with some different solution. But at the end of the day, it's a much better design. It's lasting, a lot longer, and it's better for our customers.
I always like talking with our businesses that are like super eco-focused, because they're always like, there's always a challenge or two that just no one in the industry has kind of figured out yet. And, they're so dedicated to that sustainability that eventually they come up with some very creative ideas. And there's still always like a couple lingering things out there that they're like, man, if we could just figure out how to solve this problem, that would take us to the next level. But it's always these interesting little nuances to, sustainable businesses that they're trying to be really innovative around. It's kind of, really key, I think, to a lot of sustainable businesses. So
it's really cool. It's very safe too. Like for, as most people who do this kind of camping, they're setting up a tent, right? They're, maybe a mountain bike or some other excursion, fishing, what have you. And they're setting up a tent, which, you got a bear in the air. That's not necessarily protection. This is actually like probably a safer way to do these.
That's what your bear spray is for. And usually all you have to do is just say, "Hey, bear," and that freaks them out.
Hey,
for some
I'm
reason.
fine.
At the
Look,
hands.
I'm bigger than you.
No, it's true. I applaud anybody that gets outdoors, whether that's in a backpack or what. We had a YouTuber recently review our product, and I'm looking through the comments. A lot of folks like, this guy's building for Richie Riches. This is an overpriced, box, mattress on wheels or whatever. And I understand where they're coming from, but this isn't some sort of elitist product that we're building. And I'm not elitist myself. It's just, as long as you're getting outdoors, I don't care if you're sleeping in the back of a truck, on the ground, in a hammock, it doesn't matter. Just get outdoors and enjoy nature. That's what it's about. This product that we're building is a good balance between, folks that don't want to sleep in a tent anymore for whatever reason, comfort or fear of getting mauled by a grizzly, and yet wanting to be outdoors. You're still cooking outside. You're really not hanging outside the trailer, because it's a queen size mattress. It's comfortable, but you're not going to be sitting in there for hours out of the day. It's designed to get you out into nature and keep you out there. And so, a lot of RV folks, they want to sit in there. They want to watch TV all day. They want to run their generator and, do all the things. And that's not this trailer.
What's the point? Stay home if you're going to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. This trailer, it's like you got the compact size. You can put it in your garage, and you don't have to have a big investment for space. And like you said, if you're,
that's a
like
big
boomer or something, maybe you're done sleeping on an air mattress on the ground. Maybe, you want something a little bit elevated, but yeah, like you said, I think that's a good point. It's like,
that's a
meeting
big problem.
someone on their needs.
Garage, that's a big problem for RV owners. It's like, that's a big challenge. This would fit in a garage, and it's kind of nice,
Yeah. And there's, we find that's a lot of our customers is they're coming from having owned larger RVs. They're tired of the maintenance of them. They're tired to pay to store them or not have a place to store them at their home. And just the overall expense of them. And so they're downsizing. They find that our trailer can do all the things that their older trailer could. It can store more water. It has more capacity for storage, power, electrical storage, more, it's just in a smaller shell is all, but they can still do all the things they ever did in their larger trailer. They can get this in tighter spaces. They can get it away from all the other RV folks that are running their generators all day, so they can get out where it's quieter, less crowded. they can still pack their mountain bikes, their kayaks, their fly rod cases, all that kind of stuff can pack on these. Yeah.
The wheels on those are serious big wheels.
Yeah, a lot of clearance for sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things we like to talk about on the show is like systems where you're scaling some kind of kindness, compassion, care in your business. Anything that comes to mind for you in that area as far as, what kind of systems, whether it's helping you maintain like the craftsmanship or the customer care, what do you think about there when you're thinking about scaling? What do you guys lean into?
Yeah, we're very focused we're very customer focused. We really don't want to scale beyond a point where we can't still have a very close relationship with our customers. So while we do have plans to scale production, we want to make sure that we still maintain that connectivity to our customers. It's just very important to us. This last year, in fact, we did our first ever Pin Drop Summit. It was our inaugural summit where we went out in the national forest. We staked, a really nice chunk of dirt for the weekend, and we invited all of our Pin Drop customers to come out and camp with us, just as a way to celebrate, their decision to live the Pin Drop lifestyle and just to celebrate, being together and enjoying, the great outdoors. So we were in the shadow of Mount Humphreys up near Flagstaff, Arizona, which is an absolutely beautiful setting in the Aspens, and just had a great weekend, cooked food. And it just it was the inaugural event, so we didn't really know what to expect, but we had folks still come in from out of state and join us and just really put the focus on the customer. And I think that's been really, great success. We're going to plan to do more of those in the future. That will be an annual event. We'll probably do some other annual trail rides too, where we get customers together and go run a trail together and camp out for a few nights, that sort of thing. Just making sure that we, that in everything we do, the customers front and center, and their feedback has helped us grow as a company. When we first started manufacturing, we put out a fleet of rental units just to make sure that is this product, again, I designed it for myself and my family, but is it universally loved? What are the pain points in this? What's going to break? What's going to last? What are people going to love? What are they going to hate? And so that rental program really helped us. And a lot of those early renters then became customers, and we always take their feedback and what can we do better? What can we improve upon? And again, as much as we plan to scale in production, we certainly don't plan to scale beyond having that very personal connection with our customers.
It sounds like you're very intentional with everything, even including the fact that Pin Drop operates out of a repurposed historic building in Miami, Arizona. So I'm curious, what has that building taught you about sustainability, preservation, business design, and even the impact it's had on the community? Because I've driven through some small towns in the South sometimes that just look abandoned, and there's some amazing, beautiful old architecture that could just come back to life if someone took an interest. So I'm also curious what impact that has had doing that in that community overall.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. It is intentional. My wife and I intentionally set up shop in Miami, Arizona, which is a town that anyone that lives in Arizona is, I didn't know we had a Miami, Arizona. They've never even heard of it, which is amazing to me because I was born in this state. My grandpa came to Arizona in the 30s working for the CCC. So I've been around a while, but Miami used to be a powerhouse for the Arizona economy. It's a big mining, copper mining area. So it still produces a significant amount of the world's copper. But its heyday was back in the 40s, really. That's kind of when things started to drift away for Miami. And it's sad to see. And there's a real generational pride for folks that grew up in that area. But these days, I mean, if you drove through, a lot of people feel like it's kind of an abandoned ghost town. It doesn't look like there's much going on here, which is a shame for me. I grew up in rural Arizona, so it's important to me that there's opportunities in rural Arizona. There's a lot of talent in rural. A lot of people, they don't want to leave. They don't want to go to the metro cities for a job. They want to stay where they are, close to family, close to nature, close to the things that they love. But there's just not a lot of opportunities. So that was absolutely intentional for us to choose our manufacturing headquarters in Miami. And we are in a historic repurposed building. It's 117 years old now at this point. We're shoehorned in. We had to really be creative in how we set it up for our manufacturing. but it's worth it. The greenest building is one which has already been built, as they say. And this was built by miners. It's 12-inch thick poured concrete walls. This building is not going anywhere. And we're not going anywhere. We're really glad to be located there. And the town has welcomed us with open arms. It's really been amazing. There's a great sense of pride when folks walk through and they see, wow, there's something going on in this building. Like when I was a kid, there was nothing going on, or there was a guy there that was putting mufflers on for a while, or, it's been everything over the years. But it's never been anything quite like, pin drop manufacturing. Like we're really manufacturing something pretty unique here. And I love that it comes from this teeny tiny town that nobody's heard of. And when we go to trade shows or RV expos, and we're punching way above our weight class. And I do believe we have the finest teardrop on the market. Like I honestly believe that. I've seen all the other competitors out there, and we've just got a great product. And it's being built in this teeny tiny little town that nobody's heard of, and people would assume was just a boarded up wasteland, but it's not. There's a lot going on there. And since we've located there, we have now a cabinet maker that's come to town. We've got a custom banjo manufacturer. He makes these beautiful banjos. He plays every year at our anniversary celebration. He and his wife. And so there's a lot of other manufacturing that's come to town, and there's a lot of folks that were there before we arrived that were manufacturing that nobody would even think of. So there's a lot more going on in this sleepy little town, and we're proud to be a part of the story.
I think over time, with AI and the proliferation of consolidation and big brand stores, people are going to look for that nostalgic village feel, or even being able to have that experience when making a purchase. I really just think that we'll eventually, that's going to become something people really desire and crave. So you guys are already creating that, and there's others who are recognizing it. So that's beautiful. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I wonder too, like with the remote working environment these days now, if people, can kind of get out of the big city more into some of these rural areas, and you always see one of those beautiful buildings that you drive by, but it's got like weeds out front. No one's been there, and you're just thinking, wow, what's the history of that? Imagine if you just had like the entrepreneur in me definitely sees like, oh, imagine if you just did this, and this there, and this, and brought it back to life. It's always, so I wonder if we may head into that direction more and more.
Well, you can open a business. You're not necessarily going to be the pride of the town, in a big city, but you can be in a small little town, a small community where you're the pride of the town. Everybody is proud of being that exists. I just think that's a whole different community feel than we've lost over time with a lot of technology.
I agree.
All right, so we've got an audience question. Let's go ahead and pull that up. All right, from a LinkedIn user, how do you make sure your team at Pindrop are as committed to sustainability as you are?
Good question. So we are a small team, so that helps us. So we can kind of handpick who we use in our manufacturing, both in Miami and of course some of the partners that we use throughout the state. I'm very choosy. So if there's somebody that I don't want to work with because I don't think they align with our values, then we simply keep on looking. And I'm not in any hurry. Again, not focused on quantity, really focused on quality. So, but the team that we've assembled, our lead tech is an Eagle Scout, which is great. We seem to attract Eagle Scouts for some reason, both in our people we work with and our customers, strangely. So that's great. They come from that ethos that, same place that we come from. So that's really how we do it. We're just very, very selective. And again, not focused on, God, we've got to hire XYZ so we can meet production goals. I'm the one that meters everything and kind of, I guess you could call me the logjam to operations in a lot of ways, but that's because I want to be thoughtful about this. Let's take a step back. We don't need to rush into this. Let's put our best foot forward and make sure that it's not going to come back and bite us in the end. And that a lot of that has to do with who you hire and who you invite on your team, for sure.
All right, we've got another question here. Let's pull that up. This is from Martha, who is our producer, but is also, she was geeking out over the product beforehand because this is like in her area. But she said, as Pindrop grows, is there a new market or type of customer you're excited to reach that you haven't served yet?
You know what surprised me when we started manufacturing and selling is that our customer base skewed heavily toward 50 plus, 50 to 70 years old is kind of our sweet spot. And while we have younger customers, I don't know why we don't have more younger customers. That's kind of where I thought our sweet spot would be, was with a demographic more in the 20s to mid 30s, maybe 40s. So that's sort of a demographic that we're looking to target more, and try to appeal more to those folks that our younger generation. I think we need to start really focusing more on getting pin drop in the hands of younger folks.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. So, something, you previously served, 20 years in public service, like we mentioned, Mayor of Cottonwood. Thinking about that public service role, how has that shaped you as a business leader? I would think there would be a lot of influence there, maybe than traditional business leaders might have with that kind of background.
Yeah, it's shaped me a lot. My wife too is also an elected official, so we've got a long run of elected service, and it shapes everything that we do. Down to where we located, like we were talking earlier, with locating in Miami, Arizona. It's underserved, underrepresented community that needs a lot of help, and so the public servant in me says, okay, well, we have a product which we know is going to be very popular. We can choose where to manufacture this. We're going to choose to manufacture this in Miami, Arizona, which any other business leader would be like, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard, because nobody delivers to us. Nobody knows where we are. If you want to sell your product, put it on a blacktop strip, next to the air park in Phoenix, Arizona. Like, what are you doing? This is the dumbest idea. 8 years in, we're like, actually, it's working out pretty well, and it's helping this town grow. So those are the kind of decisions that we make, I think, because of our elected background, that other folks just simply wouldn't make. It's like, it is very much like pushing a boulder uphill, and that's public service. You're pushing the boulder uphill. You're trying to do the best you can in the time you've got to make things better for the next person that comes in behind you. So are we taking the easiest path? Absolutely not. But it's the right path for us and for our customers.
Nice. No within 2 hour prime delivery there, huh? Okay.
No, I'm all blown away when I hear about folks like,
you might have to wait a week for your product, but that's part of the charm. Anyway, so now Pin Drop, speaking of public service, you also partner with an organization like the Arizona Trail Association to support stewardship of trails and public lands. How does that responsibility in making recreation fit into your business mission, being responsible and how you support recreation fit into the business model as well?
Yeah, those are the organizations that we do support. Is Tread Lightly, Arizona State Parks and Trails, Arizona Trail Association. We try to support those organizations that are again, getting back to trying to target a younger demographic. Like, they're doing a great job at that already. So we want to support them. Arizona State Parks and Trails has a family camp out program that they have. So they you sign up for it, and they'll get you and your family out camping, for the first time. They've got park rangers to help you set up the tent and build the fire and all that sort of stuff. And so they're really crafting that next generation of stewards. And so since they're doing that, we want to help them support, we want to help support their efforts. Same with the Arizona Trail Association. They've got this beautiful trail that runs from Mexico all the way up to Utah. They work hard to maintain that trail. We want to make sure that trail's open for folks to get out there, get inspired, fall in love with nature, so that they'll do more to conserve it, moving forward. So those are the type of organizations that it's a natural fit for us to support them.
Very cool.
So, and maybe this is a good transition off that question. The question we always ask everyone who comes on the show is some form of this: is what role should love play in business?
Well, it is it's something that you don't, highest paid CEOs probably don't think of it, the the same way that we do as a smaller company. But it plays a huge role in what we do. We love the product we build. We love the opportunities that it gives our customers to get out and experience nature. Recharge your wonder is our slogan. It's our mission. So we want to make sure that by using our product, our customers will recharge their wonder in the beauty that the great outdoors has to offer them, and sort of recharge themselves too, both holistically, spiritually, however you want to call it. And love is very much a part of that. We want to make sure that our customers love the experience, love getting out into nature, love nature so much that they're willing to do everything they can to preserve it, to make sure that it's there for future generations. And so love is very much a part of everything that we do, from the components that we choose, from the way we build our product. And, we actually have kind of this might seem strange to others, but we kind of have a personal relationship with every unit that we manufacture. And we put some special touches into each and every unit. When we complete a batch of trailers and they leave the shop floor, and we're standing there and looking around and it's empty, it's almost like this weird hollow feeling, like, it just feels lonely in here. It doesn't feel right, and I think that speaks a lot to the love that we have given each and every unit as we build it up from the chassis up. We've put a lot of our heart and soul into that. And so when they're gone, it's exciting, because then they're in somebody else's hands and they get to use it and enjoy it and all that kind of stuff. But it does make us feel a bit lonely. It's like, well, we got to get the next batch going right now, so we can pour some more love into these trailers.
Artisanal things, whether it's gourmet food or a well-tailored suit or clothing, they require patience and weight and time, both for the fact that the production is small and the demand might be high. And so it's just a patience game. And so what advice would you give founders who want to build more sustainable, but they feel the pressure of, I got to grow quickly, I got to make something happen quickly? What mindset shift would you encourage them to have?
I don't know how good my advice is, but I would just advise folks to just slow down. I mean, that's kind of my default. And what I do is let's just slow down. Let's get some more eyes on this. Let's, talk to the team about how we're going to move forward. I don't have all the best ideas, but you try to assemble the best team that you can to help you make those decisions. I try very hard not to feel the pressure of ramping up production or meeting artificial goals. And I think that, we proved that during COVID, because the RV industry skyrocketed and everybody and their uncle wanted to get outdoors. And there was a great surge for us, and the pressure to scale up dramatically to meet that demand was very high. And at the end of the day, I think we did right by metering our growth, slowing down, taking a few steps back, just saying, no, we're not going to scale up. We're not going to buy another piece of property. We're not going to, do whatever XYZ. We're going to just stay the course. And at the end of the day, I look back at the landscape, and there were a dozen or more travel trailer companies that started up during COVID, and they're not around anymore. And we're still here, and I think that's really important, that we've got the stick to itness, and that's borne by us really taking very slow, measured steps forward. And, we're not in a hurry. We're here for the long run.
I want to go back to something that you kind of both mentioned there. It goes back to the love and business angle. You were describing your work really as kind of this artistry. And do you think that's like an important part of love and business? Because we never really hit on that before, is the artistry. When your business becomes a little bit of an art, I think the artist in us really suddenly has this deeper connection with what we're doing. And we've had 200 plus guests on here, but we've never really hit on that angle before. What do you feel about that kind of thought?
About the work I do as being artistry? Yeah,
being the artistry in it. Is that really where some of the love definitely resides, right?
Definitely, yeah. I think, there's artistry in what we do, with our hands. I think, being a tradesman, I just love being able to take a raw material and and create a home or create a travel trailer or create something, beautiful, that it's the sort of the built environment that we talk about. You want to make sure that it's aesthetically pleasing. What's really cool about our built environment, the product that we build, is that built environment has wheels and it takes you out into the natural environment. So it's really this wonderful blend, if you will, and it's a vehicle to get people to be in the natural world. But that artistry isn't just in working with our hands and in the product that we build. There's artistry in sourcing the materials. There's artistry in when I have to haggle with suppliers to bring us the product that we need, or to kindly sell us the product, because the artistry comes in telling our story. Like, look, have you heard of Miami, Arizona? You haven't? Well, maybe you should come out sometime and visit us. Let me tell you what we're trying to do here. Like, yeah, we manufacture travel trailers, but we're also on the cusp of helping revitalize this small historic town that's really worth a lot more than you realize. So there's artistry in that, and there's really artistry in everything that we do. It's not just the hands-on artistry.
Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna have to explore that more, because it definitely feels like it hits home. It's true, because I know with our business, when it starts to feel like art in a little bit of ways, that's where you really do find some of that sweet spot in the meaning of what you're doing and the love of what you're doing.
Tim, where can listeners learn more about you, Pin Drop Travel Trailers, and the work you're happening there in Miami, Arizona?
Well, they can certainly visit our website. There's a lot of good information out there. We've got we put blogs out constantly. We have a newsletter that goes out monthly. We're on social, both Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. So there's a lot of different ways to connect. And certainly, you want to come out and visit us, just call or email ahead of time, set up an appointment. We're happy to open up our doors for you. There may be times when we don't want folks in, if we're doing something highly secretive that we don't want our competitors to know about. It's a pretty competitive environment, to be honest with you. But no, we're always welcome to show people how we build these, where we build them. We've got a rental program as well. So if you just want to experience Pin Drop, by all means, go to our website, rent a unit, take it out, enjoy it. We're very easy to get a hold of, and we welcome anybody at any time.
Tim, thank you for joining us today. Great conversation. Loved it. To our audience, thank you again for the question. And, sustainability is not one decision. It's a pattern of kind of decisions made over time. And it's, what we build, how we build it, where we build it, which we're talking about a lot today too. And, whether your work can leave the place around us stronger than when we found it. And so a lot to take from this show today. So thank you everyone for joining us on the Bliss Business Podcast, and we will see you next time.